really hoped to be the first one to speak, so that my big brother didn't get a chance to steal all my good stories. I won't tell the same stories, but I'll tell the same themes because we're talking about the same person. First of all, I want to say how moving it is for me to be back at Colonial, because I think probably me more than Bruce or Ellen, I'm not sure about this. This feels like the place I grew up in. It's, back home again. One of the things that I observed about my mom as she was dying was that little by little parts of her would be kind of stripped away. And her memory would go, and so there was one time when I visited her and she had no idea who I was. But it was still that sense of, she was always incredibly welcoming and open. And at one point, this was probably 6 or 9 months ago, when I was visiting her alone, and was helping her eat, one of the aides was helping to adjust her in her chair and accidentally pinched her arm. And my mom was like, "Why did you do that?" And it was the first time I remember seeing her angry. I used to say I can count on one hand the number of times I saw her dad be angry, and then I tried and I could not make it to 5. I do remember one time, I was probably 6, 8 years old, something like that, when we were living up here on 71st Street, 4633, and there was a creek that runs through the backyard there. And a couple of buddies of mine and I went down the creek, and we were exploring. This was a great adventure, some summer day, and we got all the way down to Brush Creek, and we headed up the creek, and we got all the way up to Roe, and this was as far as either of us had ever been. And it was starting to get a little dark, and we thought we better be getting home. And we were about an hour late home for dinner. And I remember, that was one of the times I remember my dad being angry, but I could tell even then that mostly he was scared. That mostly it was about his fear for my well-being. And so when I saw my mom, when she got pinched by the aide and she was angry, it was sort of like, wow, I'd never seen this before. And the aide said, oh, Mary, I'm sorry. And you could just see her, she was so grateful for the apology because now she didn't have to be angry. She did not like that feeling, and she could return to being at peace and gracious and open and loving. I could probably tell a lot more stories about that in terms of times when she was so accepting to me. But I guess I'll just add one thing here that I got from my pastor, Alan Grothy, from our church in St. Louis. When he heard that my mother had died, he handed me this slim volume, In Memoriam, from Henry Nouwen. And I had just kind of poked through it a little bit, and a few days ago opened it up and read a passage which I thought I might read to you, but I just want to say instead from my own words. The book is about Henry Nouwen's experiences of the death of his mother. I've observed my mother dying for several years now. There was a conversation. She got us all together to talk about what it was going to be like and what her plans were, and she was going to downsize, and she was just so wanted to make sure that everything was taken care of. And little by little over the last years, we've seen these parts of her sort of slipping away, passing away, but always the sense of love and acceptance was entirely present. And so I've had this sense that she could not be fully present with me in a way that she wanted to be, as her body and as her mind was failing. And people have come up to me since learning about her death and saying, oh, I'm so sorry, as though I was going to be sad about it. And I've got to tell you, I'm really not sad about her passing. I have more of a sense of relief and release. There was a sense in which she can be present to me now in a way that she couldn't be then, because now she's in spirit present at all times and places. And one of the ways that she's present, and this was a part of what Henry Nouwen was saying in his book about his mom, was this sense he had that I share, that everywhere I go, the world is a seems like bad things are happening in the moment. There's always something about it that is the presence of God being there for me. And for most of my life, that was in the presence of my mother and her being totally accepting